Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks with me, Steelfur, aka Finbar, London-based flesh and blood player. I've been playing the game for over 6 years now, so I guess I'm a veteran FAB player. I haven't won a tournament in a while. I need to kind of work on that. But as you may have noticed, this is my first video in 2 weeks because I have been really busy with work, which is, you know, the thing that's going to take up a lot of my time. Very busy traveling period. The early months of the year, every year, lots of conferences and things like that. I've also been assembling Warhammer miniatures, specifically the new Gloomspite Gits box that came out with all the wolves and the chariots and the Sunstealer Wheelers and Drogoz the Sunchomper. I am a destruction player for whatever reason, despite never having played Age of Sigmar. They are the best models out there. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Flesh and Blood, and it has been a busy few weeks since my absence. There was a banned and restricted list, which I completely agreed with. We just had Viserai Living Legend, RIP Viserai, the first of the original 8 heroes from Arc and WTR to Living Legend, but it's not the last. I still have a prediction that we will have quite a large Living Legend cascade this year as more and more heroes cross that finish line. I'm looking, at Zen potentially this week. I imagine Dash could go. If she just finds a window to get a few points. I think we're also going to see, let's be honest, I think by the end of this year, we're going to have lost Zen, Dash, Azalea, Enigma, Nu, Kano, Heo, Aurora for sure, Prism, potentially Rhinar, so that's obviously out there. And I could even see like someone like Dance, Florian, or Dash.io climbing up. But I think that by the end of this year, we could easily see 10 heroes or so deleted from this. Remember, it is the goal of FAB to keep a controlled stable of heroes, right? So, like, think about it now. We've got 36 heroes in the game, and there's some that are just bad and will not Living Legend unless they get broken cards printed for them, like Olympia and Arachne and Betsy and Tekla and we don't want to say Max, but someone like mostly those, like, they're not going to live in Legend unless they get some serious support. Same with Acilio. The rest of the heroes on this list are capable of getting Living Legend points. Maybe Bolton as well. He's not going anywhere. Victor's kind of been power crept quite a lot recently. So, you know, there are plenty of heroes on this list that can gain Living Legend points consistently. You know, someone like Syndra probably won't last that long. And I think we have to remember that it is going to be LSS's goal to consistently be removing a roughly the same number of heroes that they're printing every year, right? They don't want the pool of playable heroes to drastically bloat, you know, massively, because then every time they print a new card, they have to consider the impacts of that card, right? So they want these heroes to Living Legend. They probably want somewhere between 8 to 11 heroes to Living Legend every year. And I think we'll happily see 10 more go off from this list. The only caveat to that is, of course, whether they print a new hero in either High Seas or in the set after that, which rockets its way to Living Legend past everyone, kind of in a way that it looks like Syndra is doing, which is a bit concerning given that I bought into her and haven't actually had a chance to play her yet, but she's got 250 points already in the last season and looks like she's racing all the way up there to match Zen, and Zen is basically gone as well. Aurora too, it's a bit annoying that she's getting an armory deck now when she's really strong, but also like her cards are super expensive because she's really good, and she's also on the course to rocket up to Living Legend as well if she wins, you know, another calling, another, you know, battle hardened. She'll just start to shoot up in points again, so that's a bit worrying as well. But I do agree, no changes to Classic Constructed. We have a fresh new meta. A lot of the top 8s we've been seeing have, you know, 6 or 8 different heroes in. I think Charlotte was, if we just double check, you can see we've had 2 Zens, but otherwise there are 7 unique heroes in the top 8. This is a really balanced meta. People are doing very interesting things. It's just really great to see. I mean, Zen is going to be gone And then I firmly believe these other 2 slots are going to be filled by Syndra or Aurora, another aggro hero kind of falling in there. It is good as well to see Ira creeping up, but not like winning everything, but just doing very well. Lots of very interesting kind of like defensive lists with calming breezes and defense reaction, things like that, which are really interesting to see. Kind of just as an interesting option. Of course, Enigma and the Illusionist doing what they always do. Vincent performing well. Original Azuri performing well, which is really interesting because it's not, new, but it's still an assassin. So that's really interesting to see as well. Just generally I was really actually happy to see this meta and really happy to see the range of heroes that we got. I think it is quite a balanced meta with lots of variety in, which I'm quite interested. I was surprised that we didn't see an Aurora there, but there's probably one further down the standings who just didn't make it in. But either way, it's a really great time to be playing Constructed Flesh and Blood. There does seem to be some really great decks out there, and it's really cool to see. But unfortunately, if we're talking about recent news, all is not really well in the world of Flesh and Blood. We do have to acknowledge the fact that Hunted seems to have been... Okay, so there's 2 options here. Either Hunted was underprinted, which is one option, and they decided to print less because of the sales of MST and Rosetta, and the fact they had to destroy some other FAB 2.0 boxes and some Everfest and some other bits just to control supply. So when they were destroying a bit of Everfest, they thought, okay, let's print a bit less of the Hunted, and it turns out this set was more popular than they thought. Or the player base has grown more than they thought it would be, right? So we're talking about a very simple equation. When we've looked before at print run increases, the number's been around 20% increase in print run, 20% increase in players on Gem back when we could check it. So, and then you've got Japan coming in, bringing in a whole host of new players, but they have their own language printings. It's just interesting to see, right? There are a lot of new players everywhere I look. Now, I know there are some communities that aren't getting new players and people who are still struggling, but when I go to an event now in London, there are a load of people who have joined the game, either with the Hunted or with Rosetta. It just seems like the game is really entering a second wave of excitement, and whatever's causing that, whether it's just game stores opening and being excited and the post-COVID slump ending, or whether it's people getting more frustrated with Universes Beyond from Magic the Gathering and wanting to go into a more competitive game that welcomes them, or the luster falling off Commander because new cards get printed for it every 2 seconds, or more people being exposed to the hobby through the popularity of things like Lorcana and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, etc., which continue to remain active in the public eye. But either way, from my perspective, I think we are in kind of a bit of a perfect storm with what's happening with the Hunted. I think there probably wasn't a huge amount extra printed because the game has been growing steadily over the past few sets, and I don't think there were any particular indicators from how quickly MST was selling or how quickly Rosetta was selling to indicate. And even if we go back a little bit further to the sets before with heavy hitters, I don't think there were indications there that the demand was about to drastically surge. So LSS probably planned in a steady increase in the amount of the Hunted that they were printing. And then what's actually happened is a massive uptick in the number of people who are playing the game, which has left them struggling a bit for this. Another alternative which is worth considering is that LSS, unfortunately, not the big dog in when it comes to printing. There are just other companies who, like Wizards of the Coast, who can just command more sway with Cartamundi and the other printers. So it might be the case that to get Hunted printed, the slots that were available were a Wave 1, a Wave 2, and a Wave 3. And we've just had Wave 1 and Wave 2, but there's a Wave 3 coming down the line before, High Seas comes out, which will just bring a lot more to the market. And to be honest, I really hope there is, because we're looking at some really concerning things in this set. Now, this is the first page. Let's just make this bigger. But you can kind of see, okay, these are all the Marvels and Cold Foils and Extended Arts. Quick Dodge Flexes is 75, but that's not out of pocket for a generic rainbow foil. If we look at something like Balance of Justice, you know, we can probably see that's there. If we look at Crown of Providence, that'll probably be more. If we look at, so Balance of Justice, they're at £100, even though it's in heavy. Crown's at 86, but it's, you know, still played quite a bit. Something like Stone, I'm going to forget the name of these. Stonewall Gauntlets from MST, probably a bit cheaper just because they're not played in as many decks, right? But, you know, sitting around the £80 mark for a Rainbow Foil Legendary is perfectly fine. Then you've got Shelter of the Storm doing weird things. Blood Spattered Vest still being £63 is a bit weird. Normally, Legendary Rainbow Foils drop quite considerably. But, you know, that being said, it is playable in 2 classes. It is really good. So that being a bit higher, I don't really mind so much, as it's just quite popular. Command and Conquer dropping down to 55, I'm quite happy with. I obviously would like it to go further, but, you know, that's just me being, well, I wouldn't say it's just me being grouchy. I still do believe it needs to drop further. I think having £55 for a staple Majestic that's generic is still way too much. And I just feel like it doesn't really help new players get into the game. You can see Black Label is down at 47, so that's a little bit better. But I still maintain Command & Conquer needs to drop down to about 20, 30 quid. I think we can't have a, you know, a staple Majestic costing £150 for a playset. And to tie then into that, staple Majestic costing £150 for a playset, Shelter from the Storm is still £63, and that is ridiculous. Now, I've recently come into a weird theory from Shelter from the Storm, which just came out of the top of my head, but I'd like to believe in the goodwill of LSS to not print a generic Majestic that everyone needs because it's really good against daggers, and then not anticipate that it's suddenly going to cost £180 for a playset. So if they decided that that's what they were going to do and they didn't predict, if they didn't predict it, I'm a bit disappointed because, you know, I think James White used to run a single store. I mean, they should have an idea of their aftermarket and how much these cards are worth, and looking at like Command and Conquer and Weakest Link and seeing how much it was going to cost. But my weird theory that I have now is, what if Shelter from the Storm is reprinted in High Tides? What if there's... Now, this would actually be really genius. What if there's a new model whereby a generic Majestic was reprinted in the next set? That would solve a lot of the problems that I have with Shelter from the Storm. We'd come out in the next set and we'd have a reprint of this card, and the price would drop down to where it needs to be because it would be in 2 sets. And that allows you to do 2 things. It allows you to keep the card out of limited, and it also allows you to get the price to an area where it is comfortable. Now, I don't think this is actually going to happen. I don't think they're going to be reprinting something that soon, but it already needs a reprint. So maybe, just maybe. But then, of course, if they are doing that, then I think the smartest thing to do would be to communicate that that is what you are doing. Like, if you are going to print a generic Majestic and you're going to reprint it in the next set, you should probably have some way of telling people that so that people can rush to buy it if they need it right away, or they can wait if they're happy to wait and they don't need it right away. But, you know, that's just a bit of a weird out of left field thought that I kind of figured, let's just talk about it. The rest of the set seemingly fine. Hunter's Glaive is still quite high. I think 20 quid for a weapon is still quite expensive, but you only need 2 of them, so it's not as bad as some of the other ones. And there's no real other massive complaints in the set, right? The Marvel Arachnes dropping fairly regularly, so they're not that expensive. Some of the Marvel heroes being reasonably priced is fine. Obviously, Syndra paying that waifu tax, being a bit more expensive, £10 more expensive. But, you know, the art's fantastic as well. Some really good... One of the things I am really happy about with the Hunted is how well these cards are holding up their value compared to Rosetta. And I feel like they've really knocked it out of the park in terms of the Marvels and the extended arts and all those kind of things for this set. They're still sticking around the 15 to 20 to 30 price range, which is perfect for a Marvel. Whereas Rosetta, because the cards aren't playable, the price has dropped considerably, so it's not as good. But I mean, if you can buy a Marvel Young Hero for £15, that's great. Like, that's going to be a card that someone really treasures, and it is special. But obviously, it doesn't have to be like £100 special. It's great. It's good to see. And then the rest of the Majestic prices are kind of easing up now that RTN season has balanced out a bit, and we know that these heroes aren't meta breaking or anything like that. And they're kind of down to some good numbers, and I'm kind of happy to see where they are. I'm a bit personally sad that Dual Threat turned out to be a bit of a... I mean, I think I paid a tenner each for mine, which was a bit rough. But you never know with Majestics, right? For every Shelter from the Storm, you have a Dual Threat, though. Obviously, Shelter from the Storm is immediately, obviously better, whereas Dual Threat was just potentially better. I do firmly believe that something will break Dual Threat in the future. Ooh. Ooh, sorry. Ooh, wow. Otherwise, I'm generally just kind of happy with the way that things have gone in this set. I think it's a really interesting set. I'm really happy to see it grow. Skirmish season coming up. Cold Foil Iras, really great to see that going out there, giving people a chance to get nice treatments of their heroes. The playmats are fantastic. Cold Foil Channel 8 Frigid is gorgeous. I'm going to need some of those. I don't know if these are played, but they might be at some point. But, you know, they're skirmish promos, so they don't have to be knock out the park. These prizes are more than enough. Also really excited to just see a lot of Living Legend skirmishes come back. I've seen a lot of stores in the UK embracing Living Legend. I think it's actually quite fun as a format, and I mean, if I had time to build a Living Legend deck, I would be playing Bravo, or I'd be playing Briar. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just find a deck for Briar and I'll rock up with my Rosetta Thorn and kick some ass, and that'll be fun. But I'm really excited for Living Legend. What else is on the radar? Obviously, in a month's time, I have lots of work and a holiday to do before then. We have Pro Tour London. I am really excited for Pro Tour London. Right. I need to be careful because the last time I did this, I doxed myself, but it doesn't look like my home address is showing up this time. Pro Tour London is happening in the Excel Centre, which is out here. If you're flying into London City, it's a laugh. It's one stop away. If you're flying into... Let's just talk about a bit of London basics, right, for people who are coming. If you're flying into Gatwick, that's over here. You get the Elizabeth line... Sorry, that's Heathrow. If you're flying into Heathrow, you fly in over here. You can get the Elizabeth line all the way to the Excel Centre. If you're flying into Gatwick, which is down here, you have to get a train into central London and then get either the Elizabeth line or the DLR from Bank all the way to the Excel. If you're flying into Stansted, you kind of just get the bus in, or you get the train to Liverpool Street, and then it's fairly easy to get the Elizabeth line out to the venue. But if you're flying to Luton, you get the train to Farringdon and get the Elizabeth line into the venue. So the Elizabeth line stops right here, and so does the DLR. It's a really good way to get there from the city centre. It's also a really good way to get from like the Excel Centre to the city centre. So like people have been asking for advice on things to do. There is some food around the Excel Centre, like there are restaurants and there's tapas and there's some Chinese. It's not really great, but they do have like even inside, there's a bagel factory, there's a burrito place, there's a hamburger place, there's a noodle place. There's some decent, like there's a Subway, there's some decent food options if they're open, which they should be because there's a Pokemon event on and stuff like that. There's a few restaurants outside, but genuinely, if you finish for the day and you really want good food, you're going to get off the Elizabeth line at Custom House, right? And you're going to get the Elizabeth line all the way into London. And you have two real choices. You can get off at Liverpool Street, and if you go from Liverpool Street into Spitalfields and the alleyways around Spitalfields, you'll find some really good food. So like if you want street food, you can go into Spitalfields Market. This might not be open depending on when you want to go. If you go on the weekend, there's loads of like Bleecker Burger is well known as being like an amazing burger place. Dumpling Shack, personal favorite of mine. They do pot stickers and dan dan noodles. Really good. There's like a load of other places. There's a decent Flatiron is decent. In terms of other places, I do really recommend if you just go south here. I really like a place called Noodle and Beer, which I think is just down here somewhere, or I think it's down here somewhere. But it's just really good, like Szechuan food. I really like a place. There's Yeye Noodle and Dumpling, which I really like, just as like a dumpling and noodle place. And then there's a place called Three Uncles, which is like Chinese grilled like barbecued meat and rice, which is really tasty as well. You also have like Italy London, which is like a massive Italian place that does like tons of different Italian food and cocktails and stuff. And then up from there, you have a place called JWD Noodles, which I just really like. It's fairly newly open, but they do big bowls of noodles and stuff. Or you stay on the Elizabeth line and you go all the way into Central, into Tottenham Court Road, and then you basically have all of Soho available to you. Now you're looking at this and you're thinking, hey, that's quite far. But the important thing about the Elizabeth line is that Tottenham Court Road, from Custom House, so the Excel, 20 minutes, right, on public transport. So you go from there in 20 minutes, you're in the very heart of London. So if you finish the event or you want to see London, get on that train, get into Tottenham Court Road, go and see Soho, go and see the Mall, go and see Piccadilly, go and see Westminster Abbey. It's really easy. Like, this is about a 20-minute walk to get down here, maybe 30 minutes if you're slow. Down here is about 20 minutes walk as well. It's really easy to navigate this part of London, just walking, and you'll see everything. You'll see Chinatown, you'll see Leicester Square. I really recommend like seeing Big Ben up close and Buckingham Palace. They are really good to have a look. Hyde Park is like a big field. There's not really much to see there unless you want a field. St Paul's Cathedral is pretty impressive. The Tower of London is really cool as well. The tour is actually kind of worth it. The British Museum, obviously. But you can go to Tottenham Court Road and walk to the British Museum. You can walk down through Soho. You can get some food. There's really good food in Soho. I'm just trying to think of places to recommend. I mean, I haven't been to Soho in a while. Like, after COVID, I shouldn't really talk about COVID, but after the thing that happened, I tend to not to go west of like this line anymore. I'm mostly in east a lot now. Yeah, but there's basically, my point is, like, use the Elizabeth line a lot. Get yourself into central London and just have a really good time. And you'll just like have a really good experience. If you want like more chains and you want like close by, you can get the cable cars from just next to the Excel from IFS. It's about a 5-10 minute walk. You can get the cable cars over to the O2, and this place is like full of outlet stores and chain restaurants, like stuff like Nando's and Gaucho and Busaba and Frankie and Betty's, like all of those places. If you just want some chain food, they do stay open reasonably late as well, so you can get there. You can also get there just by going to the Jubilee line, which stops in Canning Town, and you can get on there. So you can take the DLR just a few stops to Canning Town, get on the Jubilee line, get there pretty easily if the cable car is not what you want. Other than that, like, just come to London, have a really good time. And just to wrap up, I will be there the whole time. I won't show you exactly where, but I live 25 minutes from the venue. I unfortunately cannot bring my corgi. A lot of people have said, hey, can you bring your dog? The venue is only friendly to service animals, so I cannot bring my corgi with me. So you will not be able to meet her. Unfortunately, she will be with her dog walker, who will be looking after her during the time I'm away. But do come and say hi. I will have my Steelfur Speaks stickers. They will be available for whoever wants one, for your playmats, for your deck boxes, whatever you like. Unfortunately, I was going to have my Steelfur Speaks playmats available, but they have not been finished yet. I have the art, which was drawn by Matthias Wazaneski. I can't pronounce his name horribly, but it is this legally distinct Korshem tree. It's not a Korshem, I should say, legally distinct tree of life. But I am Celtic, so I am allowed to have a tree of life wherever I want. But it's a gorgeous piece of art, which is obviously inspired by Aria and that kind of nature theme. You can have a good look at it there. These will be available later on in the year. I'm going to get a load of them printed, and then they'll be available for whatever it costs me to get them printed, really, with or without my logo. So if you want to have a look at it and see if that's the sort of vibe you want, come and have a look during the event. Otherwise, do just come and say hello. I know I have said in the past that when I'm really getting competitive about an event, I find it hard to chat to people and relax. I am on a different vibe these days. I am not being competitive. I am trying to just have a good time and meet as many people as possible and really just enjoy every bit of the event as I can. So do just come and say hello if you see me. You know, I'll completely confess, I have terrible face blindness. It plagues me in a lot of my work. So if we've met before and I just don't remember you, I'll apologize for that in advance. I really do try, but unless you're in my life, like on a regular basis, like I see you every couple of weeks for a month or two, like it really is hard for me to stick faces in my head. And I mean, you should see me at a conference where it's like, this is someone I have met, I have worked with. I do not know their name, but I know their face. It's it's a problem, but that's all right. So yeah, do come and say hello. I'm not really organizing everything. If people want to, we can do something in a bar on Saturday evening, though I might have to get back to the dog. But otherwise, like, there is a bar right next to the hotel. So if you are in the mood, I could potentially organize a drink session for people who are coming from overseas. And we'll just take over, like the Fox, for example, and we'll just go there for some drinks. I think there is also a proper like bar nearby. I'll have to have a look. But like, I mean, if you're coming into town and you haven't got anyone to meet up with, do feel free to reach out to me and say hi. You know, I'm always happy to chat about food or where to go in London or all those kind of things. So don't feel nervous. I mean, this is supposed to be a fun gaming experience, and if I can help unlock London for you as a tourist, then I definitely want to help if I can, and that's really fun. Oh yeah, also, sorry, one other thing that's cool, if you really like ABBA, you should have a checkout of this. I don't know if there'll be any tickets for this weekend, for the weekend that it's on, but you've got a month or so to book it. This is a hologram concert experience featuring holograms of the original ABBA singers. And I've been told, I haven't made it yet, but I live reasonably close to it. I've been told by everyone who's been that it's actually like phenomenal because it has holograms of the dancers on stage. You can kind of see a bit of a hint of what it's like. But apparently, like, the graphics and everything and the experience and the music is all fantastic. So if you like ABBA or you want like something unique to do, go to that. This, which is also kind of about 20 minutes or 30 minutes from the venue, is one of the largest slides in Europe, like outdoor enclosed slides. This whole thing is a slide. You can go down from the top in a slide. Might be worth going to do. This is the old Olympic Park, which is about 25 minutes on the DLR from the venue. So you can go and see like the London Stadium and the Aquatic Centre and all that kind of stuff. It's quite nice to walk around if the weather is good. It's too early to say if the weather is good. But you know, there are some impressive sights, and there's that slide thing, and there's some other stuff going on as well. And there was something else I was going to say as well. In terms of fun experiences, there's like a lot of cool but weird museums in London if you're here a bit longer. So you've got the Wallace collection, which is a load of like art and sculptures and stuff. It's in a townhouse. That's pretty cool. You've got the, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the, where is it hiding? It should be up here. The Wellcome collection, which is like a medical exhibit. So they have a lot of like weird medical stuff, like birthing chairs and like loads of weird medical stuff. In terms of like, yeah, stuff like this. It's like a medical museum and things. It's kind of really cool to see. One place that I really like, which isn't open all the time, but if you're into like architecture and just like kooky British stuff, is John Soane's museum. So this is his house, right? This is John Soane's house, and it's basically filled with stuff that he collected. So art, sculptures. He was an architect, like architectural drawings. The whole house is just jam-packed with like sculptures and art and books and weird staircases. And there's like an undercrypt and stuff. It's just a bit weird. But it's like, if you're thinking about like what would you get in London you might not get in like America, for example. The John Soane Museum is kind of that. The Hunterian Museum is like grisly surgery history. Again, not always open all the time, but it's got a lot of like animals in jars and stuff like that. Loads of old stuff, which is really cool. The National Gallery is really cool if you like art. Other things that are just really nice. Obviously, down here in Kensington, High Street, Kensington, you have like the Natural History Museum and you have the Victoria and Albert Museum, which are both worth a look. Sorry, they're actually down here, aren't they? They're by Imperial College. The Natural History Museum, which is of course rather famous, and the Victoria and Albert Museum, which always has a lot of stuff on. Yeah, that's it. It's the guide to London. You know, places to avoid: Bank in the City. Not a lot goes on here. Like the St Paul's is cool. Soho is cool. Down here is cool. This is kind of dead, especially on the weekend. Aldgate's all right. Tower of London's okay. There's a really nice wine bar that that I've been to near here called Vagabond, which I really like. Here's another kooky one actually, which I don't know is it's in other cities. There is a War of the Worlds, the musical immersive experience, which I've been to. What this is it's the music from the War of the Worlds musical album, and then you go in and you play through an immersive experience of the War of the Worlds plot. So like going into like being attacked with Martian monsters, and there's VR bits, and there's a flying balloon thing in VR, and there's a boat ride and stuff like that. It's actually really cool. So if you want something a bit kooky as well, I would recommend that. I don't think it's cheap, but I have done it. I think it's really good. That's it. That's it. There's a list of random, non-related, non-FAB related London tour stuff. But by all means, if you're coming, I hope you have a fantastic time. And I look forward to welcoming you all to the city that I have made my home for 20 years of my life. It's really great. Yeah, it's really great. See you all soon, and look forward to welcoming you to PT London. Otherwise, let's get that. Let's get our decks ready. Try and figure out who we're going to play for the calling. Also, a really good article by Scott Mines about things to do and what to expect. Could be worth checking it out. But my thing was a bit more focused on what to do in London if you have a bit more time. All right, speak to you all soon. Have a great one, and I will do another episode. Probably not next week because I am in Orlando, but maybe the week after.